This is the results video for UFC Fight Night Garcia vs Onama, where we will find out which UFC prediction channels had the most and least picks correct and were the most profitable or least profitable with their picks and predictions. And this week we have some interesting results, where we have a channel that's very profitable with their winner picks but very unprofitable with their method of victory predictions. But before we go into that, let's first look at the results per fight. The first fight of the night was picked correctly by 77% of all the channels who had picked Talita Alencar to win, which was picked by 85% of the best predictors and the best predictors on favorite fighters in odds. As a quick reminder, under previous stats you see the stats I used in my video, and the latest stats also include the stats that I've tracked after my video, which you can get access to by becoming a member on my Patreon. And only 8 channels had their method of victory correct, a submission win. The second fight of the night was picked correctly by 78% of the channels and by 85% of the best predictors and the best favorite predictors. And this decision win was picked correctly by 64.5%. Elise Ardeline winning was picked correctly by 97% of all the channels and by 100% of the best predictors and the best favorite predictors. And 76% had their winning via decision. 89% of all the channels picked Norma Dumont correctly to win her fight. And 83% of the best predictors and the best favorite predictors. And 92% of the channels that made the method of victory prediction picked Norma Dumont correctly via decision. 90% of the channels picked Dante Johnson correctly to win and 92% by the best predictors and 100% by the best predictors on favorite fighters in odds. But not a single channel picked his method of victory correctly, because everybody thought he was gonna win by a KO TKO, but he won via submission. Only 37% of all the channels picked Timmy Kawamba to win, and 50% by the best predictors. And his method of victory, a decision win, was only picked by 31% of all the channels. 87% of all the channels had Billy Elakana winning, but was picked 100% by the best predictors and the best favorite predictors. But his method of victory, a submission win, was only picked correctly by 3 out of 59 channels for 5%. 90% of all the channels had El Nascimento winning, and the best predictors 85% and the best favorite predictors 92%. And 81% of all the channels picked his method of victory correct, a submission win. Charles Redke winning was picked correctly by 80% of the channels and 75% of the best predictors and 85% of the best favorite predictors. But his method of victory, a submission win, was only picked correctly by 2 channels, DFS by the numbers and MMA El Dente. And here we have the first underdog winning his fight in Yadier Del Valle, which was only picked by 28% of all the channels and by 23% of the best predictors and the best underdog predictors. But this method of victory, a submission win, was only picked correctly by 3 out of 61 channels or 5%. And in the next fight we have another underdog winning in Jeremiah Wells, which was picked by 26.5% of all the channels but only picked by the best predictors 15% and by the best underdog predictors 14%. And this method of victory, a decision win, was picked correctly by 8 out of 57 channels. And then we have another underdog winning in Waldo Cortes Acosta. So 3 in a row. This was picked correctly by 39% of all the YouTube channels and by the best predictors 58% and by the best underdog predictors 46%. But this method of victory, a KO TKO win, was only picked correctly by Lightning MMA and the Wager Zone. So 2 channels out of 63 for 3%. And the main event was picked correctly by 80% of all the channels and by 71% of the best predictors and by the best predictors on favorite fighters and odds 85%. And also, most of the channels picked this method of victory correct, a KO TKO win, which was picked by 51 out of 64 channels or 80%. So on this card, 3 underdogs won, 9 favorites won, and 1 fight was even in odds, so no underdog or favorite in that one. Those were the overall results per fight. Now let's find out which channels had the best and the worst results for this event. For all the results in this video, I only showed channels that made picks on at least half of all the fights, so a minimum of 7 for this event. Which channels were the least accurate with predicting the winner for each fight? From number 6 to number 4 we have the following 12 channels with a correct pick percentage of 60% down to 50%. And in third place we have the following 5 channels with 6 out of 13 predictions correct for 46.2%. In second place is Just Win Baby MMA with 5 out of 11 correct for 45.5%. And the least accurate channels with their winner picks this week were Clanbot and Free Picks Pick Dogs. Both of them picked the winner correct for each fight 5 times out of 12 for 41.7%. The most accurate channels this week for predicting the winner for each fight. In third place we had a total of 31 channels with 10 out of 13 correct, which is too much to show, but you can find those in the complete overview after this part. In second place we have the following 14 channels in alphabetical order, and all 14 of them had 11 out of 13 predictions correct for 85%. But in first place, the channel that was the most accurate for predicting the winner for each fight, we have Baby Sharp MMA. He made 9 picks and all of them were correct for 100%. And it's been a while since we've seen 100% correct pick percentage in my videos. The only downside is he didn't make full card predictions, but it's still a great result. And here's the complete overview of all 120 channels that I've tracked this week, which also include channels that made picks on less than half of all the fights, with their correct picks, total picks and correct pick percentage. What if you had blindly followed every prediction a channel had made and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them? That's what we're gonna find out in the least and most profitable channels for this event. And to calculate these results we use the moneyline odds shown before each fight from the tail of the tape. The least profitable channels this week with their winner picks from number 10 to number 4 we have the following 8 channels, with a return on investment of minus 22% down to minus 29.5%. In third place for least profitable channel we have Just Win Baby MMA with a return on investment of minus 35.7%. With a negative return on investment of minus 37.5% we have Clanbot in second place. But the least profitable channel this week, if you had blindly followed every pick they had made, was Free Picks Big Dogs, with a return on investment of minus 39.2% over his 12 winner picks. Now, on the other side of the coin, which channels could have made you the most money if you had blindly followed every pick they had made? From number 10 to number 4 we have the following 8 channels, with a return on investment of 36% up to 33.6%. In third place we have Paul from the Boogie Beatdown and Gerardo from MCA Picks. Both of them made the exact same predictions and had a return on investment of 44.8%. With a return on investment of 47.6% we have Fight IQ with Fun in second place. And in first place, the channel with the highest return on investment is Baby Sharp MMA. The channel who had 9 out of his 9 picks correct. And had you placed a $100 moneyline bet on every pick he had made, you could have won $711 for a very good return on investment of 79%. So congratulations to Baby Sharp MMA for having the most picks correct and the highest return on investment. And here's the complete overview of all 120 channels that I've tracked predictions from this week, which also include channels that made picks on less than half of all the fights, with a total money won or lost, return on investment, correct picks, total picks, correct pick percentage and money invested. Which channels were the least and most accurate with their method of victory predictions? For least accurate channels from number 6 to number 4 we have the following 7 channels, with a correct pick percentage of 30% down to 25% for their winner plus method of victory predictions. In third place we have Gerardo from MCA Picks, Tank Top MMA and The True Analyst. All 3 of them had 3 out of their 13 method of victory predictions correct for 23%. In second place with a correct pick percentage of 15.4% we have Funky Bunch MMA, Uncle Weezy and Us vs Them MMA. All 3 of them had 2 out of 13 method of victory predictions correct. And in first place, and this will be a funny one, we have Baby Sharp MMA, the channel that picked the winner 9 out of 9 correct for 100%. But it was the opposite with his method of victory predictions, because he only had 1 out of 9 correct for 11%. So from the top of the leaderboard down to the bottom. Which channels were the most accurate with their method of victory predictions? At number 4 we have Fight Feed. He had 4 out of 10 correct for 40%. In third place is Marcel from MMA Odds Breakers. He had 5 out of his 12 method of victory predictions correct for 42%. In second place, in alphabetical order, we have the following 12 channels, with 6 out of 13 correct for 46%. But the most accurate channels this week with their winner and method of victory predictions, we have MMA Experts with 5 out of 10 correct, Pick'em MMA with 4 out of 8 correct, and the MMA Fortune Teller with 6 out of 12 correct, all for a correct pick percentage of 50%. And here's the complete overview of all 82 channels that made method of victory predictions this week, which also include channels that made picks on less than half of all the fights, with their correct method of victory predictions, their total predictions and their correct prediction percentage. Which channels could have lost you the most money if you had blindly followed all of their winner plus method of victory predictions? From number 10 to number 4 we have the following 12 channels, with a return on investment of minus 35.5% down to minus 49.5%. With a 0.1% lower return on investment of 49.6%, we have us versus them MMA in third place. And in second place we have Funky Bunch MMA and Uncle Weezy. Both of them had a return on investment of minus 65.6%. And in first place for this event with the lowest return on investment for their method of victory predictions, we have Baby Sharp MMA, the channel who had the highest return on investment with their winner picks this week, but had the opposite result with his method of victory predictions. And had you placed a $100 bet on all of his method of victory predictions, you could have lost $645 for a return on investment of minus 71.7%. Now, which channels could have made you the most money with their method of victory predictions? From number 10 to number 4 we have the following 4 channels with a return on investment of 18% up to 33.6%. In third place is Fight IQ with Fun, with a 39% return on investment. And with a much higher return on investment of 96%, in second place we have MMA El Dente, which is of course an excellent result. But the most profitable channel with their method of victory predictions for this event, in first place we have the MMA Yuda. And his return on investment was even higher than the 96% of MMA El Dente. And he had a very great return on investment of 120.5%. So well done by the MMA Yuda. And here is the overview of all 82 channels that I've tracked method of victory predictions from, which also include channels to make predictions on less than half of all the fights, with their total money won or lost, their return on investment, the correct and total predictions and correct prediction percentage, and money invested. Which channels are on the longest winning or losing streak with their winner picks? On a 3-week losing streak, in alphabetical order, we have the following 19 channels. Out of those 19 channels, 10 of them are on a 4-week losing streak. And out of those 10, we have the following 5 channels that are on a 5-week losing streak. And all 5 of them are also on a 6-week losing streak and a 7-week losing streak. But on an 8-week losing streak, we have only 2 channels, The Prestige and us versus them MMA. But none of them are on a 9-week losing streak. For the longest winning streak, we have the following 15 channels in alphabetical order that are on a 2-week winning streak. And out of those 15 channels, only 3 of them are on a 3-week winning streak. Belal Muhammad, Kyle Anthony and MMA Ethic. But only 2 channels, Kyle Anthony and MMA Ethic, are on a 4-week winning streak. And both of them are also on a 5-week and a 6-week winning streak. But there's only one channel that is on a 7-week winning streak, which is MMA Ethic. So well done by MMA Ethic for having the longest winning streak of all the channels. That was it for the results video for UFC Fight Night Garcia vs Onama. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, hope you have a great week and see you all in the next video.